Advance Notice with your host, Parks and ynoT.
All right, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Advance Notice. It's been a while since I've been here. I missed last week's episode, or last 2 week ago episode, actually. And now we're back, but it's actually not all of us. It's Parks who's missing this time around. It seems to be we bounce back and forth between who can show. But, you know, as long as we can put on a good show for you guys all the way around, I'm not too mad about it. And we do have a guest with us that can take the place of our co-host, and that's MesamiDuck. So why don't you just introduce yourself for a little bit?
Hey, I'm MesamiDuck. Kind of known NA player. I've played for a couple of seasons, not too long. Had a fast rise through main. My team won main in season 39. We played in Advanced the next season. We made playoffs, and then I had an offer to play ECL with Brazen for season 41, and we also made ESL playoffs. So, and then after that, I'm currently taking a break and waiting on other opportunities right now. So that's where I stand inside the North American scene. Overall, pretty proud.
Yeah, dude, that's definitely nothing to knock at. That's definitely an achievement in its own self. You're definitely young even still, so you got more to come. And there's a lot of Counter-Strike going on while you've been away too. So we've got quite a bit to talk about for not only the advanced standings right now and the roster changes that have gone down, but in the professional scene as well. There's a lot going on. So I mean, we can kick things off with something that's a little bit old news as of right now, but it's been somewhat prominent in the North American scene as a storyline in general, and that's ynoT, former ECL players in an advanced roster that had done very well in their outing in advanced, actually now disbanding. And I'm pretty sure that is mainly because of Voltage not finding that he was getting the resources that he needed to stick around. So, I mean, first of all, Mesami, you probably have like firsthand experience with this team to some extent as well. So, like, what do you think, A, about the roster that they had going for them and what it means now that they're kind of like gone?
It was a solid rifler. I've only played against Voltage, I believe, once on Davenport when I was in Advanced, and I think we won. It was double digit on Nuke. It was like 16-12 or something. I mean, it was like he has a lot of experience, so obviously that's like gonna help a lot. And and a lot of experience with Infinite too on the team. I'm not too sure about Snakes. I was a newer player, so I don't know about Snakes. But the other two players are also just consistent performers. So I mean, overall, it's just like pretty solid, good roster. If they could crack a few things, they have potential. Um, and what was the second part to that? The question?
Yeah, no, it's just the fact now that a team that had so much promise in North America at an
Right.
ECL level kind of just breaking apart at the seams right when they were about to like break through that ceiling. I feel like that's going to be kind of
Right.
hurtful to us as a scene as a whole, but I mean, dispersing the pieces of this team definitely isn't the worst thing in the world because Infinite immediately joined up with Brazen, the team that you were just on,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as that had gone down. Voltage took his leave, as we had mentioned. Frankie now finding his offer, I think, somewhere else. He just joined, and Chu, I think he found somewhere as well. And Snakes, I'm not sure where he's at. But I guess the question I was looking at is, with a team like this breaking apart, do you think that it's for the best if one player really isn't feeling it, that all four break apart like that? Like, do you think that it's better to disperse the talent?
For amount of experience like a team had, it probably could be both. Like it's good to spread the experience and like teach others. Like a lot of NA has a lot of roster changes constantly, season after season, no matter like what the results could be. So them just everyone playing with each other so much, you have a lot of this like crisscross and everyone teaches each other, and new perspective, new perspective.
Right.
You get a lot more open outside perspective, so that's helpful in that sense. But it is kind of also sad being that a player has to leave due to kind of like outside game reasons
Right.
because the lack of support and show. So I would say it's kind of both. I think maybe slightly more on the beneficial side than kind of like the negative side. Maybe like 60-40, 70-30.
I'm definitely curious to see what you have to say about the new Brazen roster as it is, actually. It's Brazen or Brazen? I've actually never
Uh,
asked.
I've always said Brazen.
Brazen? That
Yes.
makes
So.
sense. That sounds like, I think that's like the word, like brazen's a word. Is it brazen or
Mhm.
brazen is the word? But I think it's brazen. Either way, like the new roster that comes through now, they lost Darty Montana, and they pick up, I believe it was Infinite, and if you remember
Polo.
who the other player was, Polo, right?
Polo.
In-game lead
Right.
now for them, right? So what do you think of that team moving forwards? Obviously, I'm sure there's no bad blood for like
Right.
you don't have like terrible things to say about them as people, I'm sure, but
Oh yeah, no, I loved playing with those guys, Jeff and Dane. Funny enough, when I got on the team, I knew I had never heard of I've only heard of Dangerous like the season before because he asked me, I think, to get on the advanced team, but I just stuck with my team from Maine. And Jeff, I never heard of. RZU, I never heard of him. Grape, I might have seen him in a HLTV thread once or twice, but it was kind of funny getting
Yeah.
into that and being like, they literally told me like, Duck, like, we don't know you. We just were told that you can IGL. Like, who are you? What's your history? And I was like, I don't know you guys. I don't know you guys either. And they kind of talked to me about like a lot of the players through like the old rank G qualifiers or like any of
Right.
those players. Didn't know. So it was kind of funny going through all that in a sense. But really, I loved Grape. Very good player. Very flexible. Always willing to do things. A right mind, great mind. Jeff, really good mechanical player. He hit some pretty good shots. Dane too. He had some good deagles. Grave, really good opper. Just really, Dane was like my solid passive rifler. I could always bank on him being an anchor. And then the star rifler being Darty Montana. He's on Strife now. Very solid player. He was my X Factor player. I knew he was ready to take fights. He just loved taking fights, so I put him in star positions. And he did good. I think, had best stats on the team. He did his job well, and I could especially bank on him on nuke. Like I think he played the door position
Yeah.
very well. So, he went to Strife. I know that he's good friends with the Strife players, so he went to Strife, and uh, I got kicked for some maybe in-game reasons, but mostly a lot of the outside reasons, like lack of self-improvement. Like I didn't aim train, or I didn't do much of that, so they just kicked me. But also, I was kind of like, the schedule is kind of killing me, and it's kind of almost burnout. It's kind of killing me. So
Yeah.
it was also kind of mutual. Like it was good. I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
taking a break.
That
So far
literally
it's
just
good.
happened to me actually. I'm a caster and I do the podcast and all that, but like a lot
Mm.
of people don't know. Like they'll joke that casters can't be players. I was just on a main team, dude, and I couldn't put together my schedule, which was really killing me. And then at the same time, I wasn't improving individually, and then they were getting mad, and that's exactly what happened. It was like a
Right.
mutual parting of ways. I was like, guys, I
Yeah.
don't have the time to like figure out a roster of players that I want to try and make better, but then also work on my own individual game and
Yeah.
then work on everything that I need to work on outside of game also. So I can see how that is. I can kind of
Yeah.
relate, but obviously not to the highest level. But it's like that sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah.
So you overall, do you think that this roster has good potential now with Infinite and Polo at the helm?
Absolutely. Polo, I don't know his like IGL skills. I know he's played a lot, I guess, longer than me. Uh, I played against him in a couple cups. I don't think, like in scrims, I don't know if we ever lost to him. If so, it's only a couple times. But I think usually like it'd be double digits or we would win. So I mean, he definitely has it. I know he brings probably more fragging capability. He's definitely probably aim train, played FPL more than me. So mechanically, it's an upgrade. In Infinite, I haven't ever played with him. I've only played against him on PA, so obviously he's been in the scene probably for a super long time. I don't know much about him, funny enough, but definitely like a lot of experience on this roster. I hope some of my perspective put some outside influence or anything like that, or maybe helped. Who knows? But obviously, like very good roster all around. Like even looking at this roster, I don't even know what change I would make if it had issues and we needed to make improvements. The only clear reason would be like just lack of stats. Obviously, after a season, that's very obvious. But just looking at it on paper, if everyone does their job,
Potentially, yeah.
it's just solid all around.
That's awesome. That was a good little chunk of time that we spent on that one. I'm glad that we did because I was always looking for some insight on what happened there too. But we
Right.
move on now, and Eclectic have a little bit more drama behind their move. Actually, it's the fact that Wu, their opper, one of the best oppers in Advanced for like a season or two, or maybe even more than that, because that's all that I saw of him. He leaves, and supposedly he just left like out of the blue. He just left the
Yeah.
ESEA roster. He left the Discord. He left all their group chats, and they were like, I guess we're looking for an opper
Yeah.
now, guys. Like.
Out of the blue.
For
It was
real.
when you follow Cajun's Twitter, you always kind of expect
Oh
like
yeah.
twice a season just random kick or random play, random just something always
True
fucks
Pain's
up.
back
So
now? Wait, True Pain got added
True
back to the
Pain
raw.
is
Did I miss
back.
that?
Yes,
Did I
yeah,
miss
you did.
that?
Yes. So
Who's
True
gone?
Pain,
Hornet?
True, I'm not sure. True Pain left. I assume it was on Bad Blood or something.
I knew
Everything
that,
was
yeah.
good, and then like a week or two later, you got invited back, and I was like, "What is this tweet?" And I was like, is there bad blood? I know Cajun's a nice guy, so he's able to look past the differences, but it's just kind of, it's funny. Like it was kind of
Yeah,
a
that's a little
unique
random.
situation.
Yeah, I guess it looked the way that it looked over Twitter is they were like both kind of like going back and forth, subtweeting one another, like don't talk
Right.
about it if you don't know the side of the story. And then like
Yeah, and
one of
then
them got their side, and then he got kicked, and I guess
shake
they're back
hands,
together.
everything all good, and
Yeah.
next game.
And then their operator's just like, I'm not doing it, man. I can't do it again. I'm out. So now
Yeah.
he's gone, and they got Coco, who, in his own right, isn't a bad opera by any means. He's young. He's gotten the pedigree in advance now for, I think, now 4 seasons going on. This will be his 4th, I think, 39, 40, 41. Yeah, his 4th season. So I mean, he's gotten some experience under his belt to make it work here. Hopefully he can. But if any more of that kind of like Mickey Mouse random roster move kind of thing happens again, then it's going to be like difficult to see where they stand. But that's all I can really say personally on that, because I don't really
Coco
know
is
much
definitely
more.
solid. I know he's flashy. I can't say much on the experience side, but definitely if he has the right ideas, decision makings that Cajun could probably teach him, like, albeit, go for it.
Yeah, I don't see
They're
I don't see why not.
6-1-2 right now, so and some
Yeah.
good score lines like 16-8, 16-7. These are some single digit score lines. This is good.
So they've gotten themselves like a little bit of a buffer now where they can kind of just like figure out what they got to do with a new opper in their team, and just like kind of treat officials as almost like reps of getting like reps in with your new player, because they have such a lead right now. And the season's like what, 12 games now, I think?
Yeah, 12. I was told 12.
Jeez. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how we
Yeah.
keep going down, but I mean,
Yeah,
next season's going to be
if
10.
yeah, it's crazy. If you're 4-3, you're already past like the halfway.
You're
Like,
feeling it. Yeah, you're like, all right, guys, we're halfway there.
I saw a tweet. Someone got 3 or 4 losses, and they were like, "Can't make playoffs," and I was like, 4? Like that's all you get? Damn. Like,
Jesus, wow.
yeah,
That
they're
is
just shorting it.
ridiculous. You're like dead teamed after like half your season. Like you just know
Yeah.
that it's over. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, see you later, guys. All right, so I guess with that, it's more players leaving as we move into early birds making a roster change by force. It seems I haven't actually seen any tweets about it, but I'm going to check his Twitter right now. Tix leaving early birds, a player and a team that I actually rated pretty highly. And Tix has good statistics across the season. Actually, some of the best that he's had in a long time at this level, as consistently as he has so far. So yeah, I can't see anything on his Twitter as to why or where he's going, but that's a player that they're going to be like kind of hard struck to replace unless they had somebody in mind. I don't know if you know anything about him.
I don't know much. Never played on a team with him. I've only played against him. I haven't even heard through word of mouth. Not even sure. I just know that he's played at Advanced for a couple seasons.
Yeah.
That's about all I know. But I know Early
He,
Birds as itself just pretty solid. Just pretty solid.
he's typically the entry fragger on a lot of his teams, if not first, second. But he really does just kind of throw himself into the mix sometimes and try and take those opening duels, and like seeing that he wins them a lot of the time now, especially after having the experience that he does in Advanced. He probably just knows how a lot of the teams that he plays against likes to run their game, so
Right.
it's like easy to entry sometimes. But now that I see he has that XP, if he decided to leave, I hope it was for like personal reasons or something, and not for like some sort of bad blood or a personality clash or something like that, because that's something that might set him back, and I really
Yeah.
hope it doesn't, because that's something that you need in North America, honestly, right now at this high of a level in Advanced. Moving up is entry fraggers who are willing to just do the job and do it well at the same time. And that's something I think that we kind of lack personally. I feel like
Yeah.
we're missing some of that.
He also could have. I mean, they have 5 losses, so they might be guaranteed no playoffs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were just saying that.
So he might have just be like, look,
See
I
ya.
wanted this, expected this to be like a playoff team. We didn't get it. I'll just focus on life stuff or try to take a step back or do like some self grinding, play a
Or
lot of
see if he can
pugs,
find
whatever
a
it may
team
be.
while roster lock isn't
Yeah.
around too. That's, I mean, assuming that his team is cool with that. I mean, not like they can really do anything about it either
Yeah.
way, but
Don't know full much, can only assume, but
yeah, I hope that everything's well there, because again, like you were saying, you know that they're a good team.
yeah.
So for the fact that they lose a
Golden's
pretty
great.
good
I
player,
like Golden. I think he's funny.
I love
uh
Ajax. Ajax is one of my
Ajax
favorite
is
people. He's
solid.
funny.
I seen him emo tweet. Not too
Yeah.
sure about why or what happens. I think that was about ticks, maybe.
Oh, no way.
Insane's good. I think I always seen Insane with good stats. And Escape, he has really good mechanical aim, so he could probably get it done too. Just need good decisions. And
Yeah.
Ajax played for a long time too as an IGL, I think. So same thing with Cajun. If he could like show him the ropes, good stuff. Like I said, like solid, pretty solid all around team.
Yeah, so ticks left on the 30th from the actual roster itself, and 2 days before that, Ajax just types LOL. What?
Yeah,
I
right.
wonder if
Yeah.
that has something to do with it. That would be kind of funny, but I'll try and figure it out and see what I can get under for next episode maybe, because right now I'm pretty curious actually. So don't want to spend too much time over there because we still have a lot to go through actually. We're going into the fact that Micro finishes the unjustified roster, and one thing that I just want to say about this unjustified roster is that it's been going in a direction that I'm personally not too comfortable in, because I thought they had a very good outline of what they wanted already in the direction that they were going, and now I feel like Cyrix every other season is like on and off on whether he wants to actually stay with the team, and he's like looking for better offers, like just seeing, he always tweets like looking for options and things like that, and now they have two players new to their roster in terms of the core, which are Micro and Tensky, and on paper I think that they can do really well as long as Micro adjusts to getting back into the game well, because he's been gone for a minute, and Tensky is a player who's been around for a while as well, and mostly French Canadian teams. So I mean, it's just a matter of like culture slightly changing, I guess. But like I said, on paper, I think it could be good.
Yeah, about this team, I've always felt that it's kind of like a ticking bomb, this roster. It's kind of, and like it, I always feel like the environment, what I always felt and what some told people, where these are players that can shoot and they feel like maybe they don't get offers, like you said, like Cyrus, on better ECL teams. So their next best offer, they're on the next best team, which is like an ECL team, which is unjustified. So they just kind of sit on here. But I feel like it might be like bad blood, or maybe like selfish playing 1v1s, just trying to get the best stats to move on to the next team. Because I feel like this is just kind of like a sinking ship. Because I'm not sure what happened, but in EGL Premier season, I believe 3, the most recent one,
So,
they lost to like a random main team. Like it was pretty bad too. It was like single digit loss, 16-5, 16-7. It was pretty, like that was pretty bad. That should almost never happen. Um, I'm not sure if those were BO3 or BO1s, but
I actually didn't get to catch any of those games because I was casting throughout
yeah,
most of them. But we're going to be talking about the semifinals and up a little later. But that is kind of
gotcha.
rough.
Yeah.
I hate to be like a leaker. I hate to be that guy, but I get to hear like some of their team comms sometimes during casts. Like they just go into dead
Hmm.
chat and talk to each other sometimes. And with the few games that I have heard that from, I don't like what I hear. I feel like it gets kind of like passive aggressive, a little bit loud even sometimes
Yeah.
about things that happen during the round. And it's directed at a player and not even necessarily even being constructive, or like maybe even beating themselves up, or like what are they doing? It's like sometimes I'll hear some of these players say things to their teammates that me personally, I wouldn't take that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Me
it's like,
personally, I wouldn't take that.
yeah. So I mean, again, like sinking ship. I mean, I hope not, because I'm sure that they'll all find a place worth their time in the short term, medium term, if this were to go down the way that we're seeing it does. But if it takes too long, if they start to lose individual form and get down on themselves and their career reputation start to sink a little bit with it, then you get into a territory where it's like, okay, Cyrix was a player who was promising at like a mid ECL level a couple seasons ago, like potentially,
Yeah.
and now it's starting to be like either he's planing like at one level, or like slightly wavering even farther down. So again,
Hmm.
all players I've casted for so many times over, I love these players to watch. They're so individually talented when they're on, but I hope that they figure
Right.
their situation out, because like I
Yeah.
said, I don't know the direction in which they're going with this roster, but if this is what they think that they need, I think it could definitely work if they manage to figure it out.
Hmm.
So with that being said, we move kind of into a slight preview of what's been happening in the top tier of North America before we move into our advanced team talk in terms of the records right now. So we're just going to talk very briefly about the fact that Liquid back in the top 4, NA back on the map at a top level, and with Yakindar, I think that they've been looking nuts as they go into Blast. They make their way into the fall finals, almost flawless, if not flawless. I think they went and won every game except for one against Na'Vi in a BO1, which is whatever.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't know if you got
that
to catch any of
game.
those games.
Oh, I watched a lot of the Blast groups. I love watching Blast. I think they're the best production. I watch a lot. And Liquid, I mean, they have me sold, man. Like I thought the Yekender would be like like a good buff, not like this god buff they got. Like they crop some teams. There's
They
some,
all looked good. It wasn't just Yakindar. Like they've all
yeah,
had their resurgences.
and if they're able to like maintain this consistency so early, it's like trophy contending. Like
Right around the
seriously.
corner. That's all I'm saying, dude.
Uh
Major is right
and
around the
and
corner.
Alish always wanted that space player like Yekender, and he
Right.
creates that. And just have Yekender be your entry, create a lot of space, and then you have your clutch players, Naf, Liege, OC behind you, crazy mechanics, and the Nitro just long time experience IGL. Uh, you just don't want to be behind any of those players. It's kind of like phase. You have like a really sick entry, and then like your late round players and your 2VXs, 3VXs, 1VXs are just twists. Like Rain is solid a couple times, like just like Brokey, Opry, like
Yeah.
insane, like just sick late round players. Rops too, late round. Oh, it's
Late round, super late
you know
round, yeah.
you don't want to touch them in the early round. You don't want to touch them in the late round. So that's what I see on Liquid too. So
I
it's
think
all around.
I think what I like so much about the exact idea that you were just talking about is the fact that what they had with Shocks is what they were kind of looking for, like experience-wise. He has it in entry fragging and lurking to a certain extent, so he could have been an early or late round player, but it's just that his individual level wasn't quite there, and the communication
Mm-hmm.
obviously clearly wasn't there sometimes. Like sometimes they just miss calls or like they're a little late to the move. But with
Yeah.
Yekindar, first of all, the guy is a genius. Like he is a very intelligent player for the video game. Like he has a super good understanding of timings and how obviously you've seen the money bind clip. Like that's just one
Oh
example of
yeah.
how this guy just has such a brain for the game. But his thing is that like Shocks could have, he has potential to either A, open up a bomb site for you in the early round, be your entry fragger, or play for your late round and win a 1v2 or 1v3, or lurk on the other side of the map and find you an opening pick where you're not even playing from.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so stupid, and I love it because he's gotten like Elige. If he's entering, Elige is right behind him, and he's gonna kill whoever's out
Yeah.
there. And Naf's got their back after the cleanup, and it's just so cool to watch. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, a lot of your best players, like your best mechanical aimers, you want second, because if the first person dies, no problem, because they're also expected to die. But the second person having like the best world-class rifling, you're almost guaranteed that trade, and that is the most important consistent thing to get. So
Yes.
that's where I put my like star riflers, either second or third or individually lurking. That's where I put mine.
Absolutely, yeah. Makes a whole lot of sense. And I mean, like, Yakindar, he's a player who could be any of those things, but the good thing about him is that he's just so individually driven to take those fights and make the space for
Mm-hmm.
his team that, like, he's not selfish about having to do the job that he's already going to do anyway because he knows that he can get his kills. It's
Right.
crazy. So I
And
love to see it.
an interview real quick, he said that he likes Liquid because it allows him to fill roles when needed or be flexible. Because on Virtus Pro he was always the hard entry, but on Liquid now with all these long time experienced players, he's filling in those extra roles where he needs to be, or maybe he's in a certain map position and he's filling when needed, and he's just learning a lot. So it definitely will bump him up a
And,
lot
that,
on
and,
this
that,
team.
and that's where Nitro also comes in handy sometimes being an in-game leader entry combo. Like he obviously used to entry as like a star entry when he was like
Mm-hmm.
young. Like he was NA's like next up and coming star entry player at that point. Like you look at him and you look at Freakazoid, obviously a little bit older, but those two were like the most prominent entry fraggers NA had. And Elige was his duo partner. That was just the player who would follow
Yeah.
him in the bomb sites and kill. So now that Nitro can be that player sometimes, Yakindar and or Elige follow him in. It's just so cool. I
Yeah.
love it. But I don't want to spend
I,
too much time on it after
right.
this. You can just say what you want to, and then we'll get out of the
Yeah,
way.
the Yekender thing, he also said that he's put in more situations in the 2VX, 3VXs, like I said, and that's what he really liked. That allowed him to really play the experience late game. Like that's because he said entry fragging is, I could be mistaken on this, but he said it was easy or it's very
You don't have to be a
straightforward.
genius, I think he said.
Right,
That's
yeah,
what I
that's
read. He
what he
said you don't
said.
have to
But
be a
now
genius.
in the 2v2, 3v3s, that's the mid round players. That's where the best players come out on top always. So that's what he's kind of getting out of it, and that's what I like was iterated. Very good.
Yeah. And then on the other side of things, in the top side of North America, not as good looking for EG or Complexity, both of which having made roster changes, though. I do want to sing the praises of both of them to some extent, though, because in the opener for Blast, they did beat Na'Vi despite being a little bit weakened because they didn't have Simple in the opener, which is
Mm-hmm.
like still good. I mean, it's better than not winning, obviously. Like they could have just outright lost and they kept them in single digits. And then they move on to the next round and take Liquid to 16-14. And I mean, that's not a terrible play either. Like that's
Right.
not they weren't playing a terrible game from what I had seen. I think they're still really having to adjust to Halzerk, and Halzerk's really having to adjust to them because their play style is very North American. If that makes any sense, he's not very much used to like how like less slow and methodical like working picks around a map must feel to an Opper who they had that was so explosive, I guess, or like that was what they were trying to get from him and it wasn't working. So they're kind of just working with a whole new style of op now. And then on the side of EG, it's them making their way into the group stage and then losing to FaZe initially, losing to Big in their next, albeit not having automatic in at least one of those two. I don't think they had automatic in either of them. But then they come back and play NIP with automatic in the lower bracket in the best of 3, take a map off of them and take them to the third map in double digits pretty deep, and I thought like a swing round or two would have taken them the game. But what
I
all I have
remember
to say
watching
about
that
it,
game.
all I have to say about it personally, and then you can go and say whatever tangent that you want, is that I think the automatic is nuts. I think automatic's really good, and I think that in any team that has him, they better be using him well. And so far, they have used him well enough with Nealan in that game, at least. I thought that he was being put in positions that looked better than what he did on the Stewie team, because that one was a mess. And I hope to see them move forward now where Hex T can start to shine a little bit and Cirque finds his individual form again, because I don't really need Breeze to be a god if automatic is doing it for him for a minute, because he can kind of like have a buffer to figure out how he wants to play now. But with Nealan in the team, God, I hope, fingers crossed, he'll bring them a style of Counter-Strike they desperately need.
Right. Yeah. Automatic, I watched the NIP game. Oh, it's beautiful. Automatic
So
plays so
nice.
well. And it's crazy. Like he goes on breaks, he comes back, he quits, and he still has like this top form. So it's definitely commendable. A lot of experience, a lot of good stuff. Like great player. I wasn't there. I'm not a huge like Cloud9 fanboy, despite it being North America. Not really my type of team. I've always watched the Russians, so that's where I lean towards. But yeah.
Nealan, there you go. I mean, not Russian, but
Nealan,
close enough.
I watched when he was on K23. They played very well. So I was kind of excited to see Nealan. Like, that's pretty great. He might have. I'm not sure. I can't really say. Like Evo Geniuses, it's kind of like X Factor. Not really sure. Like who's gonna kind of like when they said who's going to be the first EU team to lose to Evil Geniuses or Complexity, and you'll be like the laughing stock. So like Evil Geniuses coming over, it's kind of like same thing with Complexity. They had that issue. They haven't won a game the whole like first season, and Halzard came, but he said it was great, and they're doing a lot better now. So hopefully Nealan can convert that as well, because he is XK23, and I like those guys too. So I do want some success. And Hex, I played against him before in RBG, well XRBG, Carpe Diem, and they're a solid team. I was told they didn't have an IGL. They just kind of mid-rounded. But I know every time we scrimmed against them, Hex had 90 plus ADR.
That
Like
actually
30
makes some
bombs.
sense though, considering they just replaced their star rifler with Stanislaw, and now Walco being their in-game leader, quote unquote, if that is to be believed what you just said, and that could just be him being like, okay, thank God, because I can just play the game now. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, you can't like Ninjas in Pajamas. They said in an interview sometimes like, let's just play like it's FPL and Mirage. They lost a big lead they had, but sometimes at the tier 1 scene, a lot of the 5 players could mid round off each other. Like the IGL might just start the round and then everyone just mid rounds from there. Some Danes play like that, but
Just get your kills. It's kind of like, why would I call anything super intricate right now? You just killed 2 people a day. We're gonna go A.
yeah.
Like,
And it's all or like when you get on that opportunity, you can totally punish an exploit. You have the voice in the round saying like, "Hey guys, I just killed a cat player. This one con, and the guy rotated out a rat hole. If anything, he's gonna be marked. So do a B pop with the window smoke, trade out the closed B anchor, and then you have like the site. So that's kind of like the voice that you're looking for. So that's kind of like mid rounding. But other than that, like Evil Geniuses, I'd have to see. Like, I watched a bit of Nealand's games, his decisions. I didn't like his decisions too much. I didn't watch much of his POV. I was more focused on the Opera on K23. But Nealand's decisions when I watched on Evil Geniuses, I was not too big of a fan. It was kind of like solo player aggressive plays, but I still have hope for him. So I'll have to see. Just kind of iffy.
you have to keep in mind that, like, at the end of the day, like, who they're replacing, it's Stewie 2K, who obviously is a little bit more of an aggressive player in his own nature. Like, he's gonna have to make up for some of the. He probably feels kind of what's the word? Obligated to make some more aggressive plays or be a little bit of a playmaker in some rounds. But the one thing that does bode well for this team, in my opinion, is that Nealan on paper should be a better team captain than Stewie was, if not also a better in-game leader, because I can't speak on the behalf of how he actually leads the game other than this team. So, I mean, I don't want to judge a book by its cover, having one in-game leader who's been doing it for years and one in-game leader who only did it for like a 6-month period, and he did it like secondary calling every other team. But one thing I was about to say that I actually think is really good for this team is the fact that Rush is gone, because the role that they were looking for in Rush when bringing him into this team was not entry fragger. They didn't need another player to go in first this time around, which is like something that they could have very well had. But
they had role clash when Rush came in, and That just sucked.
I
Like
saw
it was just
Valde was
kind of
coming, and I
freaking.
was like, okay, this might have some potential. Like you have your
Yeah.
very clear front to back order of players entering bomb sites now.
Mm.
But
Huge fan of Valde too. What a smart player. Great.
oh yeah, dude, did you see his new Thorn interview? That was a good one. If you haven't, it's pretty
I
good.
haven't watched. I haven't watched that.
It's pretty good. But yeah, moving on from that now, that is going to be the end of EG and Cole at the Blast group. So now they're in the showdown. So I guess we'll have to see what they can do. But now we move into the advanced team talk. we have 9 teams, lists of three struggling teams that we're going to talk about pretty briefly. 3 teams that are quote unquote overachieving. I don't want to call it that. That's just the name that we had in the workshop. I want to say more so they're just exceeding expectation than
Right.
overachieving, because obviously if they're playing well, they're playing well. But then 3 teams that are about where we expected for the season. So I want to start actually with the 3 teams that we expected to be where they are for the season, starting off with Infinity Esports. So I'm absolutely positive you know this team to some capacity. They've been around for like ever, these guys, the organization and the players, and they're in advanced. They've been here for a little bit too long to afford to not be in playoffs, almost guaranteed. So like 7-1 right now, I don't have too much to say other than expected. That's all I have.
Yeah, right. I also think their playstyle benefits them more. I don't say in the short term because that's kind of derogatory, but to be able to play super aggressive like that, naturally, statistically, you're just going to punish a lot more teams that don't have great responsive structure or very efficient at like mobilizing across the map. So naturally, that also just punishes teams, and obviously it works. And you can't say that it's like stupid or it's really toxic. Uh, Furia just top contending team. They're not on trophy contending level yet. They usually get to playoffs and then they drop out on the bottom of playoffs, but they do get there consistently. So it is a playstyle that works. So like you said, long time team. I've been there for a while. They have also been on my scrim blacklist for a while. Until we are ready for aggression and we have some levels, then we scrim them. But in the start, we don't touch them.
No, I wouldn't. It's
So
not very good practice. It's just kind of, it's more like practice that you need as a caller on a team that you're ready to call for, and you're like, all right, I've got to adapt to this now. I can't
right,
sit
yeah,
idly by while they do this. But yeah,
yeah,
I mean, about where you'd expect. 7-1, can't really afford to be anywhere else right now.
yeah.
Next is Villainous Union. That's again another team of at least 3 players, core, maybe even 4 actually at this point, that have been together for a couple of seasons now on end. I feel like. I've seen Omniscient and Alvin together for a minute. I think Shutout has been in and out of the team, and Tatum also maybe in and out of the same core. But again, like very familiar with each other for the most part, going to a lot of lands together. Most recently as well, like the Fragadelphia lands. They're 4-3. They're winning some pretty convincingly. They're losing some, and they lost against Eternal pretty tightly. So I mean, personally, that's just where I would place them, as like middle of the pack, so to speak.
Yeah, this team kind of reminds me of like Unjustified, where like for some reason I just kind of linked those 2 teams together. This team could totally be in ESEL again. Just like very solid. I think they have a lot more hope and solid players. Is this? Oh no, this
Core
is a
will stand.
different Zeb. Yeah.
I think their core will stand for a while.
Yeah, like core is just very solid. And
Yeah.
let's
Alvin is an
see.
opper actually who's usually like really insane, and he started out the season a little bit slow right now, but they've got so many more games left to play that is, as assuming they're just like figuring things out even still with their roster and like how they want to play it. Eventually he'll just like snap like that and find himself comfortable, and I hope that is the case because that guy is nuts. I've seen him do some absolutely filthy things,
Right.
but other than that,
Can't,
that's all I got.
yeah, can't say too much. I don't know anything individually about these players. I've only played against kind of
Yeah.
like Talon and stuff, Tatum and stuff when I was in ECL. That was about it. Can't say too much.
Yeah, and then Davenport D2, that I actually want to sing the praises of, because they are right about at the level of where I was expecting them to be, with a roster that is relatively inexperienced across the board at this level. Rift as an opper, only making his way for his first season of Advanced right now, and he is playing like not great Counter-Strike, but like in the games that he's finding kills, they're impactful ones. Like he's not going like lights out, but he's definitely not doing as terrible as an opper in a brand new setting of the brand new team could be. So like this is a huge jump for him, and I respect him for putting up the games that he has every now and then. So that's all I have to say about him. But Bebo, obviously, he's been around. Arcade has been around for a minute now. He's just making his way back to D2, or rather to Davenport now. Tactile also been around the block. I think NO7 is actually a little bit new to this level, if I'm not mistaken. I think
So. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, this
He's
is his
always
first season in
been.
Advanced too. He's only had
Yeah,
one main
he's.
season before this.
Yeah, I
Holy
was gonna
crap.
say he's usually floats around open IM when I see on Twitter.
Oh my lord, wow.
So huge jump for him.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of adjusting for this team either way. Like there was
Yeah.
never going into the season and expecting yourselves to make playoffs or anything like that. And we said that on our last podcast. We were just talking about how they kind of just need to survive. Their goal right now is
yeah.
just to not get relegated. Like making playoffs is not really like their main achievable goal, unfortunately. But
Right.
I think they're close enough to what I would be expecting from them. That's why I actually
Yeah.
think this is good for them.
For a general rule, I'd usually say as a team, you set a goal, and then you set like a realistic goal. So a goal would be obviously like go pro, etc., whatever your win
Right.
advance, win whatever you have your goal. And then your realistic goal is something that's actually achievable with the current roster without over expectation. For
Right, like,
me on
the
Brazen,
goalpost as it goes, you know.
yeah, right. So us on Brazen was to just it was either get fifth place and play no relegation, or at least make playoffs. And we did that, and I don't think it even was playoffs because I felt like we overachieved more than what we wanted. I think the goal, our last season was 1-6 on Brazen, so I think our goal was to just not get relegation like at all. So we overachieved, so that's just a bonus. But you did what you wanted to do with the roster. And this roster, I agree, a lot of new time players. Rift, No 7, again, Arcade played for a while. I know he's like a smart player, so he's solid. Bebo, I had checked the stats again on Bebo, and he's still negative. So I'm not sure if he's injury or not. I have no word on any of that or any past ex Davenport teams. But every time I check stats at Davenport, Bebo's been like a little bit negative. So I'm not. Do you have any insight if
Yeah.
he's injury?
I actually don't. I thought he was in game leading on the last team, but he wasn't when I initially saw
Mm-hmm.
him, and that's why I thought he might have been his stats might have been tanking so much
Right.
that he just had a lot to worry about maybe, and he had so many other players shining at one time. But like as of like late and even towards the end of the last season, it was unfortunately not up to snuff. And I said it, I think either in the last episode or the one before that, that Bebo really had to start picking it up before I start to think the worst of his individual form right now. And as one of the more experienced players in this team, he either needs to be taking up the mantle of being like a leader of men amongst players who have no other knowledge of where they are right now, or obviously just taking up a front standing rifle role and taking the fights and winning them for your team. But honestly, I'd probably expect him to be the entry, considering he probably knows that his aim isn't his best of strengths in
Right.
comparison to other players in advance. So it makes more sense to be like, okay, as long as my in-game leader is coming up with the game plan, I'm going to take the first peek, and I want my players who are brand new to this to just take the aim duel immediately after and win it. Because that's
Right.
what's going to give them the confidence and what's going to give them the motivation to continue to work on themselves. If they can't kill that guy after I die, then that's like, okay.
Right.
Because it'd be kind of shitty of him not to, right? To be like, yo, NO7, go
Yeah.
entry for me, you bot. Like,
And
like
yeah, yeah. And for short, I had when I first joined ESEA, I was like, okay, this is kind of like more of a serious thing. So I need to really learn what my identity was. And as an IGL, I either needed to entry IGL like Kerrigan or become like a support IGL. And I was like, well, I've always been like an 8 guy support in the back. But if I need to be in the back, I'm going to be alive in the 2vx's, 3vx's. So I need to have some firepower. And I was a smart clutch
that
player.
sort of
I
thing.
was, yeah, I
Or
wasn't
blame F.
yeah, I wasn't too great on like mechanics. I'm not the greatest, but I'm also not the worst. I
No,
still
definitely not.
have my stats are even average with players that don't have to IGL and prep for everything else. Their only job is to just rifle. So I'm still like usually definitely nowadays to be an IGL, you either have to frag and just be okay IGLing, or you have to be a good IGL but not be a liability. And I wasn't a liability. I was like 780 or I was just shy of it. So I did my flat job. So I wasn't like a detriment to the team, and I was a good IGL. So I did my job. So that's kind of where I sat. Maybe a better fragging IGL would have clutched a bit more, but I think I did pretty well in my map default standard kind of way. But right, like you said, I think this team's goal was to just not get relegated. So they still have a chance for that. So uh, we'll see. It's close.
I actually have more new. I think we're low key gonna scrap talking about Electrify Steel as they were because the team looks like it's dead.
Wow.
A lot of different players just went to different rosters. With AYY going to an intermediate team of ex Advanced players. Umar joining Take Flight.
Yes, I knew that as of yesterday. I actually checked that roster change. It was yesterday. That's why I messaged Grizz. I was like, "Whoa, what just happened?" I just checked this.
Oh, do you know?
Um,
Because it says the starting five right now is Waddle, Grizz, Farg, Penguin, Zans, and they're all still on the roster.
right, yeah. I don't think they're changing Umar into an active position.
Sub role maybe. Or six
So
man?
maybe sub role.
Okay.
I didn't get much more insight on that. I didn't
All
ask,
right.
but the only insight I got was like them removing Bird, and that was it. But on Umar replacing, I didn't hear anything. So I wouldn't think they would either. I think they have a good 5.
Right. It seems that Jason hasn't gone to a team just yet. Kel, I think he was their coach or something, hasn't gone anywhere just yet. Learsey went to a team called, either he just joined it, or this is like, you know how sometimes it says like the team that you're on now, but you didn't necessarily join it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a main tryout team, but I don't think he actually joined that. Yeah, it seems like Umar has found a home and A has found a home, but other than that, like they're just gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of sad,
Yeah, I
actually.
guess underwhelming season. They have 4 losses. Well, this team definitely should be doing way
Didn't they
better
just
than that.
place like top 4 Atlanta or top 2 Atlanta at Fragadelphia too? I just casted them at
I think
Fragadelphia with
so.
Fard.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh no, that's a shame, really. Wow. I
Let's
mean,
see.
like
They lost the
yeah,
DNA. They are hot right now. Close game. Wouldn't be too upset. Even
yeah,
with a
no,
forfeit, their only win was against Arctic Ace, which I think is a low ranked team.
yeah, no. Arctic Ace is 3 and 5
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
this is my ex teammate in IM.
C
A
Mitch, I
couple of
love
them.
C
These,
Mitch.
yeah, this is kind of like average bottom advance. Obviously no bad blood, but
Right, right.
um, that team, that's the only win under the belt, which they should get, but it was close, 16-13. Ancient,
Orion,
eh,
Orion, they lose to. It's like that's
Orion,
whatever. I guess they're kind of beating
yeah,
teams in
ooh,
general.
yeah, that's Mirage though. Like Learcy, I
What is
know, I mean,
16?
like
Ooh.
Learcy Umar, like that's just Hyun, like all that's just Mirage players. So 4-16 loss, like kind of should have been a little better than that.
Losing to
Unfortunate.
Yenny Cherry isn't terrible. I mean, it's a close game that they probably should win either way, but taking it close isn't
Mhm.
that bad, I guess. And then obviously they get 16 to
Yeah.
3 by
It's
Rain at
just
the
like the
beginning.
experience. Those guys played a lot longer, and they do
Wow.
have individuals. They should just, yeah, just kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But it's kind of unfortunate because if they would have clutched out an extra round or two and the 2 close losses, they
Yeah.
would be 4-2, and they would have still been together. So shows you
Um,
how close games it really are in BO1s, especially with the shorter seasons.
yeah.
A lot of ifs and what ifs. So,
Yeah. We
but
already
that's what
kind
it
of
is.
talked.
It's a game of milliseconds.
We already kind of talked about early birds, so I don't really have to say too much
Mm,
about them. We pretty much gone over them as deep
right.
as we could. Because if they replace their one of their best riflers, then they better hope that the next player they get is even better. If not, bringing something else to the team that they didn't know that they needed, even, which is obviously like super hard to find. Like that's just something that you kind of stumble upon while looking for a player almost. Even when you just settle for a player, sometimes you'll find that you needed something that you never actually had, which is
Right.
cool. But I hope that they do find that because 3 and 5 is a good place to like push off of in terms of not getting relegated and like just showing that you still have what it takes to continue to play at this level. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. And then
Yeah.
Golden State Warriors,
Ooh.
they got a new coach now, but they have a recruitment ad up for a player that I don't know who
Gotcha.
they're replacing though.
Oh, this is like big chillin'. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, this is the core of Big Chillin', yeah. But I don't have too much to say about it other than I expect a little bit more for them for being around for so long. Being 2 and 3 right now isn't terrible. You're only 1 round or 1 game diff. So I mean, they can definitely bounce
Mm-hmm.
back for the rest of the season. Like not even
Wait.
close to over for them.
Still 116 against Infinity on Dust 2. Uh Unfortunately. But the Infinity on Dust 2 is probably really good with how aggressive the CT side could be.
Right.
And T side could, if you can't handle it, it's snowballs. So won't worry too much. Vert, permaban Vert is cringe map. Mirage close. Like yeah, still good hope. I still have good hopes for this. 2-3. You didn't fuck up and you're not overexcelling, just in a good spot.
Uh, I hope. Yeah, they're definitely not in a
Mm.
terrible spot.
Oh
They'll,
wow.
they'll probably be
And
better.
early birds going back real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4 losses has been within 4
Yeah,
score.
I saw that.
It's
Yeah.
all super close. So might hurt
That
some
stinks.
mental, but if
Wow.
they stick it, yeah, I think they might be out of playoff, or it depends on the rounds, and they need to win out with 5 losses. So, oof,
Yeah, definitely. Oof.
ugh. Maybe pulled the short straw. Unlucky.
So now we can kind of just like bring up our mental a little bit, maybe with some more positive news about teams that are actually doing super well in the season so far. Team DNA is 6-0 right now, and I only know a couple of these names. I know Ken's. I've seen him around a couple seasons now in some good teams. I've seen Oaken around as well as K1 in some better situations. I haven't really heard a whole lot of drama, if any, about them. And now they find themselves here in Advanced 6-0 up. And that's kind of nuts because personally, having a sub with Frankie, I was thinking like, dude, that's a player I would try and find a main spot in the roster if I could. But 6-0 up, these results like speak for themselves. 16-3 against ASAP Mob, 16-14 against Electrify Steel, who were dead. 16-6 Alpha 1, 16-3 Team Valence, 16-8 against D2DU, and then 16-6 against Limitless on Inferno.
Definitely great. Wow, no losses either. Wow, very solid start. Like, and Oaken's my good friend. I talked to him in main and advanced, taught him some things, and very good player all around. He has good mental, and these are like single digit scores too. These records, like and Limitless, like that's a good team to get a great win on. And Electrify Steel, they won. It was close, but I mean, obviously they've won 4 times on Inferno, 3 of which has been single digit. Hasn't even touched 7 scoreline. Like I'd be scared of Inferno against this team. A lot of
Stop
demos to
picking them
watch,
into
but
Inferno.
yeah, you have a lot of demos to watch, but even like so many different teams, so many different players like already tried and failed, and they haven't got more than like the minimum 5 rounds. So it surprisingly good, and they had wins on Dust 2 and Vert. I'm curious what their other map pools are, if they play Nuke or play Ancient or Overpass. I'm excited. Other than that, geez, very impressive.
Yeah, super
Definitely
impressive.
overachieving.
Yeah, definitely. And another team that's actually going flawless, who's also overachieving in my opinion. Like the other team I would have said like is doing really, really well. This team is overachieving just purely based on the fact that I quite literally only know maybe one of these players by name. No offense to any of them. It's just that I cast a lot of Counter-Strike and I watch a lot of Counter-Strike throughout all these seasons, and I haven't seen very many of these names. It's Mad Kings Esports 5-0 right now in the season so far, with wins over the likes of Early Birds, Esoteric, Villainous Union, Eros, Orion. Like these are names
Yeah.
at the bottom of Advanced that you're beating, and albeit they're close games all the way through and through, like 2-round, 4-round differences, they're still really good scalps to take, even though you can't exactly do it convincingly. But in my opinion, I think it's almost a little bit more impressive that they take it so deep and win it in like overtimes, because that's really when it comes down to crunch time to be like, okay, we've played 30 rounds of this game. Let's make sure we're keeping our game plan pretty fresh.
Yeah, Mad Kings, I played them a couple times here and there, I think for 2 seasons. To me, they're kind of like Infinity Gaming, but like a B
Yeah.
team. Kind of like, I think these guys are also very aggressive. The only player I know on this team was Slayers. Other than that, nobody else. But I think they also have the same playstyle, Infinity. So they could catch people off guard, despite Infinity had a lot bigger score lines, but this is obviously a lot closer. Now, to be like a great team is consistency, and you do win all the short games, but if you still can't convert the second half of the season, that lead that you have is useless. All the great teams will convert that good lead and finish with like a 11-1, 12-0, 10-2, you know? Kind of like Evo
I
Junior.
actually did cast these guys. Sorry to interrupt you. I think I have casted them before. I think I might have lied.
For like Evo Geniuses when they were up, I think 5-0, they finished a half 5-10, 6-10, or they win both pistols and they lose, and the casters were like, you know, if you want to be one of these top tier 1 contending teams, you need to every good team will convert that lead every time, and that just helps with consistency. So if they can convert the rest of the season, definitely, I think, impressive a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no,
Definitely
for
good.
sure. Last season was also their first season making playoffs in Advanced for the 4 seasons now, including this one that they've been here. They did I think they did 9-5 in last season's regular, and then lost in both of their games in postseason. But even then, like that's like experience they just didn't have. They weren't playing against teams in a best of 3 scenario that late in the season. So now they find themselves here in this season already on track to have their best record ever in Advanced. So I mean,
Right.
that bodes well for them, but like you said, like it honestly doesn't mean anything if you go into the advanced playoffs again and can't find yourselves a win, right? Like it's just kind of like you improved on your ability to take hold of your season and almost guarantee yourself playoffs, maybe even moving forwards. But I mean, it doesn't mean nothing, but in next season, should they not be able to put something crazy together in their
Ooh.
playoff run, then that's going to be a little rough.
Yeah, because they're at a point where they can finish the season 7-5, which I would assume is round difference for playoffs. So they haven't guaranteed playoffs, can't count your chickens before they hatch. But also their matchups are pretty menacing, like X13, DNA, Limitless. Those are three teams that if they convert those, then like, okay, I'm
Even
kind
one
of
of them, dude. Like, even if
like,
they could just get
yeah.
one more good scalp, like,
So if I'd be on that team, I consider those like at least win one, lose two, and then convert the other two, then you're winning by you could finish the season like 8-4, 7 no, I wouldn't say 7, like 9-3. That is like kind of realistic I would be looking at. So that's where I would predict this team could finish if they would keep this up. So the
yeah.
big win on Villainous, but was Villainous the team that died? No, they're still
No,
going.
no, no. They're
They
still
just
good.
gotcha. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
Oh, and they're a good vert team too, so
and then other than that, it's really only one other team that I have here as overachieving purely because they've beaten some decent teams across the board, not really taking like crazy scalps, but I mean, taking wins are wins, and it's Eternal, a team of players who I only know the one name of. It's RSN. He's been around for a long time in terms of just bouncing back and forth between all the different levels of divisions that there are. I think he's been playing since season like that has to be pre 25 at this point, but he's been around for a long time, maybe even pre 20. And he's in this team now, and they're 4-1. They've got wins over Revel, Arctic, Peaker's Advantage, and Villainous Union. That one's probably like the best of them all at this point. With Peaker's Advantage being a pretty good one as they change their roster around now, having lost a few games almost in a row. And Rebel's not like a world-beating team, but it's definitely a team that could put a little bit of pressure on you as a team with a lot of players who have a lot of success in like main level at the top, and now just kind of figuring out their formula as an advanced team, just kind of coming together now. And then Arctic Ace, you were talking about them before, not exactly like again like a world-beating team, but again, probably players who you'd give a better time of day than this one, maybe. But I don't know
yeah.
any. I genuinely don't know anything about these players.
Yeah, Eternal, I know Arson. I'll say well. I don't know him personally or played with him. I think it was only like a tryout, but I've always seen him on teams, play against him all the time, stuff like that. He's just been around Advanced like a long time, like you said. Uh, I just checked all their players' histories. It's all like main players. I don't think anyone else has played in Advanced
Damn,
besides
yeah. Look at that.
Arson. Yeah. So like 4-1, usually like you see the intermediate team. Like the advanced team go to advanced, they get blown out, or dead team. Open moves up to advanced, blown out, dead team in 3 games. Uh, Considering this, like it's a little turnaround. It kind of reminds me of my team when we went from main to advanced. I think we had I don't know if we had a bad start or a good start, but we finished strong, so it kind of like reminds me. So maybe these are some next up players that might replace some people that's been advanced for a couple of seasons. Some solid
Some new
wins.
blood.
Some alright win. Revel's a nice win to get on him. Arctic Ace should have
Yeah.
been a bigger gap if you want to be a real good team. Solid though. Pickers Advantage. That's always been like a meme stream team to me. I don't know if they were serious or if they prac, but they might.
The Team Villainous win is the one that I thought was the best for sure.
Yeah, for
Even
sure.
though it was like double
That's
OT, but
oh on Mirage too. That's a good win to get. So definitely, I would definitely a head turn. Definitely. Let's
yeah.
check stats.
One
Oh
player has like 90 ADR right now, and it's like Josu, I think.
yeah, this is Ridge. I don't know if this is like the Ridge.
Juno Ridge. Is he on the team still?
He is not on the team.
Oh man.
So I'm not sure
Well,
if that was the Ridge or not, but
the Ridge.
yeah.
Is that the Ridge? Like he's like a celebrity now. But
Yeah.
I mean, good results for a team that, like I said, I didn't have my eyes on before now. So I'm gonna keep my eyes on them and
Mhm.
see if they continue that, because there's like a lot more more heavy hitting teams to look at moving down the stretch if they have a record as good as this already. So I hope that they can keep their footing like planted where they're at. But at that point, that we've gone through our list of 3. That's all we have for the overachieving, the struggling, and the teams who we think are where we expect them to be. And all we have left to talk about now are First of all, EGL Premier, and then the North America's RMR, which are currently going on right now, with just a few things to talk about that. So we'll kind of just breeze through the EGL Premier. It's already happened, and I think it's been talked about probably by the people who watched it primarily. But for those of you who don't know about it, run by EGL, owned by Crown. Yeah, I know him. I can even call him by his first name if I wanted to. No, I'm just kidding. But they've got Brazen and Electrify Steel, as well as Timberman and Infinity in the top 4, with its Brazen and Timberman in the final, and Timberman took it 2-0. So we'll start at the beginning. Brazen 2-0, Electrify Steel. Seeing how Electrify Steel are at where they are now, I guess it's not that surprising.
Right, yeah. Even on Brazen, I played through the first round of playoffs for this, and this is also kind of funny because since Unjustified lost to that main squad, they were seeded against us. Like we were supposed to be going against the main team, but since they lost, we got seeded against Unjustified instead. So I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Now we're playing like our harder first matchup. So, but we still beat them 2-1. But definitely, I followed it through because obviously I was freshly removed from this team at this point, so I was kind of watching Brazen a lot play through this. The Timberman Brazen matchup, I always expected to be the finale, which it was, and kind of sad Brazen lost so too. I never played against Timberman. I've only spectated a couple games. I can't say much about them, but um,
Good players. They really are good
yeah.
players,
And I
genuinely.
wasn't there when they first played ECL or whatever. I've only been told they were solid in I think playoffs. So in a time where ECL is definitely a lot better, more skilled than what it is now. So, but
Yeah.
definitely impressive on EGL and Timberman. They didn't drop a single map. They shouldn't drop the map against anybody. Maybe Infinity if you're having a bad day, and Brazen probably should have lost at least once, but uh, definitely nice at least.
Yeah, I thought it would have been a deeper BO3 between those two teams, honestly and truthfully. I thought that Brazen would have
Right.
taken them a map deeper because they took the first map to, I think, overtime. And the second one, they got wiped over on Overpass. It was like a little
Mm-hmm.
bit too far from what I was anticipating that Brazen were going to put forward. But again, like, they're also kind of getting used to new roster changes. They've been doing game
Yeah, this
leader and
was a little
polo.
fresh.
Yeah, they've got a new star rifler, expected star rifler in Infinite. So it's like, yeah, they got a little bit of time that
Yeah.
they can wiggle and change their game plan around a bit. So kind of expected, like you said, for that to have been the final. But Timberman, good on them for winning that. Brazen, back to the drawing board, I guess, till next time. It's not too far away, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure. So they have their
The
season
very
going
cool
on.
thing about this tournament, I guess two things. One, Crown's a very good person, great tournament, well around, very vocal, accommodating, very
Yes.
great. I have high hopes for EGL now. And secondly, the first place prize, you're gonna get like custom gloves by whoever sponsored it. I forgot his name, but
CSGO Gloves, so that's like the company
I
that
think so.
sponsor it.
Yeah.
I have a pair, actually.
Very cool. I was excited to play because I'm like, look, Brazen, our matchup is gonna get Timberman in playoffs, and all we need to do is win, and we get some cool gloves. And I was like, that'd be cool. So, but unfortunately, roster moves happened, but also it was fortunate. So, uh,
Yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. It's just how
yeah.
it is. But like I'm glad that you, unlike some other people in the scene or in this world, like leave their teams even if it's on like decent to mutual terms and just have like
Hmm.
bad blood, like try to like
Oh
want to see
yeah.
them losing kind of thing. Like I don't like that. I don't
Right.
like
Yeah.
that at all.
Earlier, way earlier when we brought up the first time on Brazen, I was saying old roster, new roster. Um, Jeff just messaged me today if I wanted to sub in for their RMR tomorrow because they Great has to move, so he can't play in the RMR tomorrow.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll play. And I can't because I played the first RMR with Detonate, and with the roster rules, I can't play on a new team for 120 days, so I couldn't play. But it was like good
Dude,
blood.
ask them
Like,
if they need a sub. I'll be around. Trust me, dude.
hey, I'll vouch for you, bro. I'll vouch for Tony.
I'll put in those numbers, I
Yeah.
swear. But speaking of that, that's actually a kind of crazy transition. I don't know if you just saw what we were going to talk about next, but it's almost perfect that you did because it's the North American RMRs starting
True.
today. It's the second of the three, I think, with the other one going on tomorrow, like you had said.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you guys are in currently waiting to play your games tomorrow. I'm not sure where you guys are at right now in terms of that Brazen, but currently one of the three Evil Genius teams still need to qualify, and it looks like it's going to be the main roster with Neelan and all them, who are currently playing actually and should be in the round of 16, not so far away. But they've got like no chance to screw up here, considering that there are only, I think, 2 spots for each of these next qualifiers total.
Right.
Or not total, but rather per qualifier, there's only 2 spots. So if they can't pull through in either of these, they might be a little bit screwed.
All right.
Just a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, it's going on right now too, actually. Actually, I forgot these qualifiers start way later than I thought it did.
Yeah.
They're still going through right now, actually.
Yeah, they are, and they're playing their round of
Yes.
16 at 8 or 10 actually. I think they're playing a BO3,
Oh
or is it a
wow,
BO1?
yeah.
A BO1 at 10. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to ask you about is how you feel now that there are more spots for North American teams in the major. The RMR has a lot more space for now higher level advanced teams to make their way through, because last time around it was 11 out of 16 teams that were South American allowed into the RMR based on just how they were
Mm-hmm.
distributed, I guess. But this time we're looking at like a 9-to-7 ratio, and that affords us a lot more space. So first of all, I want to ask you if you can just like take a peek and see who's already in the RMR on the Wikipedia page and say who your next 4 teams to make their way through the NA spots are going to be, at least in your like educated guess opinion.
Definitely nice. NA needs to play against a lot better teams than
Right.
against each other in a bad way. Because if bad plays against bad, you won't learn. But if you play
Hmm.
against like your big brother, Liquid, and you get cropped, but you learn some things, learn why you get Punisher, this is what happens, or you can't be missing these shots, you learn a lot more. So I think I forgot which Twitter person brought it up when they were talking about how to fix NACS. But if you just put more tournaments, it'll just be the same bad teams playing against bad teams. You won't fix it. You need an outside. You imported player, bump up the team from the inside, or from the outside, you have good teams play against each other and you improve in that way. So it's either way you choose. Either way are beneficial. So
Right. Or both even. Screw it. Why
yeah.
not both?
I know definitely for sure ATK is probably going to fill up one of those
I
slots.
hope
I can almost
so.
say for certain. I know they are a very solid team. Playing on land also helps the team a very good amount, but they have a lot of good time, mental, good players, been playing for a
Right.
while now. So it's unjustified in ATK and a few. Oh, maybe not a few. Well, yeah, they have to wait on almost 2 games. So um. Oh, speaking of real quick on the last RMR, I believe Carry Esports beat Team One, which is
Oh,
absurd
good.
to me. On
That's
Nuke,
good.
if it was Mirage Inferno, like yeah, Carry could have had a good day, Team One
Nuke.
bad day. Yeah, on Nuke, on a map, I mean
That's kind
Team
of
One is
wild.
salaried and they play. So like almost always the best team wins on Nuke, almost always.
Yeah.
So it's very surprising for me to see that. I don't think it even was close. I think it was 16-9. Like it was just pretty okay. And I was like, wow, they must have just been on one, or like even team one, I would have say that's like almost no excuse because that's a map where you can exploit a lot of information and stack the correct bomb site, play very strong CT site, and it's very suffocating. But I'm surprised it even was like a turnover.
So you think that is there a chance that Team One makes it through, because they're in the NA qualifier, obviously, like you were saying,
Right.
they're still around. EG, they're still
They're
around.
still around, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're playing against Villainous right now. They are winning on 9-4. Team one is definitely a team that can make it through despite poor performances in the last one. That one, it was a new roster. I think they just brought Malbs in and another player. It was kind of fresh. So I was like on
They
Nuke,
returned to the roster, yeah, and Malbs just
right?
joined back.
Yeah, so it could be new roster, not enough practice. Maybe they practiced 2 maps that wasn't Nuke, came on Nuke, they just had to plug it out. So that could be reasons. So I wouldn't be too I wouldn't sweat. So team one is definitely a team I'd look up to. Brazen, they should go through and fight seems like B Hop. So
B-Hop's
I'm look
pretty good core too.
yeah, they're definitely solid. Strife is in here too. I'm not sold on the new Strife. I think I prefer the old Strife. Unsure. So those are definitely, I'm looking at like going, there's actually a lot. We're pretty
Stripe is a
early.
is a is a calamity of a team that I thought would
Mm-hmm.
have taken themselves a lot
Ooh.
farther, but then they started making roster changes like crazy, and I didn't quite understand. Like Fets or Fates or Fedgts, however it's pronounced, him
I
coming in
think it
and
was
leaving so soon.
Fates. I
Yeah, I
think it
think
was
it's also
Fates.
Fates. But however, like soon he comes in and leaves, I thought that was going to be something that lasted like at least a little longer than that. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I guess what happens happens. He just went right back to the team they got him from. So
Right. So definitely ATK, they'd be towards like the top 4 spot, almost guaranteed, I would say, definitely. Timberman is in their upper bracket, so ATK might fight Timberman for the last spot, so I might not. In that matchup, I'd favor ATK. So then I'm just not gonna say Timberman move on as well. I'd have to look in upper bracket. I
right,
feel like,
surely.
well, even so, it's Timberman and Strife fighting each other. Whoever wins, I think ATK still wins.
Right.
So I definitely for sure ATK. And upper bracket, it would be B Hop, Brazen, Team One. Northern Forces maybe like on upsets you have to go through Team One, and Evil Geniuses. I
BO3s
would
to qualify. They're BO3s to qualify.
okay. Oh, okay. True, true. So Evil Geniuses definitely. I think this is their first showing, like officially, actually. Um,
Yeah, other than the land 1 BO3, yeah.
beside. Oh, is this the main squad?
Yes.
No shot.
Breeze,
I thought
automatic,
this.
Hex
Oh,
T,
it is.
certain,
Wow.
yeah.
I thought this was Carpe Diem. Uh, that's for whoever said Evil Geniuses roster is not confusing. Sorry.
Yeah, right, really
Uh,
though.
wow. So that actually changes my thing. I would probably say Evil Geniuses has to be
Surely,
three.
right? You gotta say it just
They
for
Limitless Rebuild Shift Northern Forces B. Team 1 they should be beating, especially in BO3. Brazen should be beating. B-Hop should be beating, just experience alone. So yeah, no, I would ATK Evil Geniuses final answer lock in.
lock in. All right, bang.
Yeah,
Those are the
so
two that we got going through this one.
yeah.
And then
The
if you
third
had to pick just two off the cuff for the third qualifier.
Yeah, I was gonna say third qualifier, that gets interesting because now all the like immediately qualified teams are gone. So now you got some interesting prospect teams coming up. I would say I'm gonna say Brazen for my homeboys.
I
I'm
would
gonna rep
actually
them
agree. I
through.
think that there's a chance. I say
Yeah.
Timberman actually for the second one. And then other than that, like for that second RMR, you have those two teams. So like off the cuff, like off the top of your head, who are the other two that you would pick for the third qualifier to make their way through?
That gets very interesting because now you have all the guaranteed teams pretty much qualified and out of the way. So
Right.
definitely thinking Brazen homeboy. I gotta go back, love my guys. And Team One. If they don't make it through the second one, which they could, maybe a little unexpected, but if they
Right.
don't, I would say most likely definitely the third. So
So like
that's definitely what I would
interchangeably
say.
almost like team one and whoever doesn't or does make it through the second one, like just switch those two around. It should be.
Right, yeah.
Got it. All right, yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And then the last thing that we have here tonight to just close out on is something that is a little bit controversial to some people, and I don't really have a whole lot of an educated opinion on it, but I can see why it would be an issue, is that the RMR for NA is in Stockholm, or rather just the America's RMR in general. It's in Stockholm, and I guess that the con to that is that you have to go to Stockholm for a total of maybe 4 or 5 days, and if you lose, you're just gone. And for teams who are orgless, for teams who are in advanced, let's say, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to accommodate that, like comfortably, I guess. And it also just might be a little bit more frustrating as players who are like knowing you're going to go and get wiped and have teams like Liquid and Furia make their way through. But at the end of the day, I don't want to take your talking point if this is what it's going to be. You were talking about it before. Like, if you want to improve and you want that experience, it's like you kind of have to throw yourself into the gauntlet and fight those teams
Right.
out.
That's what I believe is best experience. Play against the best, and you'll learn a lot more. Because that was kind of like it going through matchmaking. Play against a lot better players, you learn. So I wouldn't see why that wouldn't work at
True.
the top level either.
That's true, actually. That's
Yeah,
how I
but
did it. I would always be like, dude, what did I just do wrong? Like, not even like actively trying to get better. Like, I was just, dude, like, how am I gonna kill this guy next round? You know
yeah,
what I mean?
in matchmaking, it's just a lot easier to spot why. But in top level, it's a lot harder to have that keen eye to spot what could have done better, what could be better.
How, bro?
Right, yeah.
How do
But
I
it
fix
being
it?
in Stockholm, I never traveled for anything out of country, so I'm not sure if you need a visa from America to Stockholm, but definitely being Orgless, I don't know, do you know when that RMR is? Maybe about a month, I would say.
It's October 5th, so yeah, a little over a month.
Yeah, so ooh, I would say that's pretty close in the planning scheme of
Cutting it
things.
close, yeah. You gotta already
Yeah,
have like been like, all right,
you
if we qualify,
yeah, that this is like weeks planning worth of stuff. So I
yeah.
definitely a lot of it being that close, I have stress, and especially being Orgless, you gotta cough up money in a month.
You're
Like
getting
a lot of
flown
the
out once Brazen make it though, dude. You're subbing. Something's gonna happen, and you're going to
yeah,
Stockholm.
I gotta go, man. It definitely, but I'm not too. I haven't had a problem with it not being an NA. I'm like,
Right.
I don't see a big deal. I hope ESL hopes to aid the teams that
Yes, for
need to
sure.
come. Yeah, so definitely. But it being like a month away, like it's kind of
Yeah.
close. But I mean, they're on time schedule, so that also probably doesn't help. But
Yeah.
ultimately, pretty okay. I'd have to see how it performs overall. But people might say, I mean, they're at a hotel, correct? Like not a boot camp center.
Surely, probably.
I think I usually see a hotel, which isn't
Yeah.
bad. So maybe you get there. Well, the
I think
ESL
it's weird
help.
that sorry, I think it's weird that from there. So here's what I think is the weirdest thing actually is the
Okay.
fact that it's in it. Oh, Goodbye, camera. It's that the RMR is in Stockholm.
Mm-hmm.
The major is in Brazil.
True.
So if you make the major even offshoot, you then have to plan to go to go from Stockholm
Oh wow.
probably back to America or the United States and
Yeah.
then back to Rio. And
Right.
that's a whole nother beast I didn't actually think about. So even if you are Team Liquid, even if you are Furia, that's still kind of annoying. I didn't think about
Yeah.
that.
That's the travel issues
Oh,
NA and
wow.
Brazil talks about. I think Taco said Brazil had it worse than North America. I
I
think I
think
would
so.
also agree. Uh, so yeah, I didn't think about that either. And depending on the major
Oh,
is,
man.
it would be kind of nice to have. It probably can't be logistically, but having RMR and then the next week or next weekend, it would just be major. So when you do go through the RMR to fight, the teams that win don't have to go anywhere. They
Dude,
could just stay there for the major. But
the major's on the 31st. It's less
s-
than a month.
yeah, less than a month. So that's a lot of traveling.
So
That's
2
a
months,
lot
you got to
of
figure out how to get between 2 continents
yeah.
back and forth.
So
Holy.
then even so when you're planning if you qualify, you're also planning if Brazil. Like this is some serious stress planning. So kind of tough. Now, I would also agree ESL definitely has it in their centers to put qualifiers in same countries. That just helps the system, makes it way easier, less financial stress, everything economic wise as well, healthier. Also a lot more fans can go watch. So definitely I guess the overall pool, having RMR in the same country per RMR, I feel like you get a lot more money than you would just have one qualifier in one country and everyone go to it, right? So
Yeah, that makes
if
sense.
if I'm not mistaken, so
No, yeah.
definitely, yeah, I think they could learn. I'd say hopeful. I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker, but it's definitely strenuous.
Vacations in Sweden and Brazil. Hey, I guess
Yeah,
like you get
it's
a little
true.
bit of time to just relax. Maybe if you go out early, you got a couple of days. Who knows?
Um,
But
and then
yeah,
ESL, real quick, I'm not sure how they define help or how they actually help.
yeah,
I don't know if they have a look, we can help you, but you can't be here earlier than 5 days before the RMR. We're only going to give you 5 days. But maybe on a team with an org, they have the benefit of like, okay, let's go boot camp for a week or two, and then we have 5 days before the RMR, and then we play. That's a way bigger buff. But if you have to depend on ESL and they limit to you 5 days before the event, now you're limited. See that? I'm not too sure. But if I would say ESL like will pay for your flights, but if you want to stay longer, that's on you. Like you have to book the boot camp center. You have to book all this. That's on you guys. They might just cover fees in the hotel for the 5 days, and that's all they guarantee. They won't help much more than that. So
that makes some sense. But again,
yeah,
yeah, that is still kind of strenuous to like figure all that out in tandem with everything else that you have to figure out on top of that. So it's like,
right.
yeah, I can see the pros and cons. So I mean, I hope it works out. I hope there's no issues. I hope that doesn't like something arises where it's like a team like can't make it to one of the 2 spots back and
Yeah,
forth or something crazy.
that's where it sucks. That's definitely where a red flag, I would say, as a company, definitely need to prevent that at all costs, or at least
Yeah,
support, or definitely learn. Learning is the bare minimum. The bar
yeah,
isn't hell. You need to learn from that. If a team that
yeah,
happens next season, make sure it does not happen at all.
yeah. I agree. And that's really it. That's all we got. We banged it out a little longer than most of our episodes typically go. I think we just went over the hour mark, maybe even further than that. But I mean, either way, I thought we did pretty good of actually covering each topic. And I'm glad to have somebody who's gotten insight on, let alone one of the teams that we talked about quite extensively through it, but also throughout the teams that win players we were talking about earlier on. So first off, I want to thank you for joining me here today. So like kind of impromptu. We didn't have today with us Parks, so I'm glad to have a co-host with me. So I'm going to allow you now to kind of just say your thank yous, give your shout outs, and then we're just going to do our outro together.
Of course, I appreciate it. I haven't been on too many interviews or podcasts. I had some planned, didn't make it or couldn't make it because of practice. So I do enjoy giving to NAC and my insights. Whoever cares doesn't care. It doesn't matter. But so of course I appreciate everything. Definitely shout out Brazen. Very good team, old squad, great home. Definitely solid team. I would even say, MesamiDuck didn't say this, but I would say maybe a better roster now than it was before. Don't,
Perhaps,
yes,
potentially.
yeah. And then also shout out Take Flight. That was my old home in Advanced as well, and they're ranked one right now currently, and they're playing phenomenal, especially with Grizz. He was my teammate. I had always high hopes for him. Wadil too, very
We love
solid
Grizz.
AWPer. So those guys definitely playing super well. I'm excited. I hope to see them in relegation actually. So I want to, and definitely they have no reason not to finish out the season strong. So
I agree. Yeah.
um,
And that's all you got? That's your pieces?
That's
All right.
everything.
All right, great. Yeah, that wraps up this episode. This has been, once again, Advanced Notice. My name, ynoT, and today we have MesamiDuck as my co-host, and the ever-great JK behind us in the producing area. Gotta shout him out almost every time because of the work that he does, and I do appreciate it. Next time, though, we have some extra, maybe, I don't want to say juice for you. Perhaps I'll do some digging for some other topics in the near future, as well as some new graphics to come through as well. So as we continue to produce this, we thank you who watch this every single 2 weeks. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.
Peace.